Is it normal to formally end a friendship? I, 27 female, think it's time to no longer be friends with my 28-year-old female friend. We were really close for a year or so, 3 years ago. Since then, it has felt to me like we have nothing in common, and every time we meet up, it's awkward. I've tried not initiating contact with her for long periods of time, but she always contacts me anyway. I even tried suggesting we aren't as close as we used to be, which she acknowledged, but she doesn't seem to get the hint. I was hoping we could gracefully drift apart and nobody's feelings would get hurt, but I'm worried that won't happen, and it's unfair to keep stringing her along. On the other hand, I don't want to have to break up because that feels so weird and unnecessary at our age. So I guess the main question is it normal to formally end a friendship?
Okay, yes. It's normal. Like, your feelings are normal. I just think sometimes things aren't always worth the headache and, like, the hard conversations. Sometimes you just let things fizzle out and let time do its thing.
Yeah.
Although sometimes that's not always fair to the other person.
Yeah.
But if you're saying it's awkward every time you hang out and you have nothing in common, maybe this other person feels the same way. So it's like you both just want to end this friendship and you both don't want to make it like a confrontational thing.
Mm-hmm.
So one of you just has to like slowly be less available, maybe.
Yeah.
And phase it out and like see if it's reciprocated. So if the other person's like, hey, like, why are you all of a sudden busy all the time? Then you're like, okay, maybe this does require a conversation, versus like if they're kind of picking up what you're putting down, then that's it. Like, you just let it do its thing and ride it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be a good first step. What you were saying about maybe she feels that way too, that is very possible. Like, maybe she feels guilty and she's like, oh, well, if I don't reach out, she's going to be upset. She's going to be mad. And I feel like I've experienced that in the past where eventually we just stopped. And I'm like, okay, now neither of us do it. And I think we both are okay with that, even though it was never stated.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly I'm okay with it because I never ask her to hang out. And clearly she's okay with it because she never asks me. So in that situation, yeah, we could have had this sit down where we were like, hey, we're not friends, right? Yeah, we're not friends. Let's never speak again. Goodbye. But like, we just figured it out. So sorry for the change in cadence. My microphone stand just broke and then we had a crisis with the microphones, but
we're back.
We should be back. Okay. I don't even know what I was just saying. Basically, I think that if you get to a point with a friend where you're both not really consistently asking each other to hang out, you can kind of read the room, be like, okay, we're drifting. And if you're okay with it, just like let it happen. If they're okay with it, it probably will just happen. And if they're not okay with it, then they will probably bring it up to you.
And then you go from there.
Yeah, go from there. I honestly think, given the details that this person has told us about this story, I don't think you need a friendship breakup. Like, I think you should do what Rebecca said and just kind of like be less available. If she asks you questions, then you can tell her and be like, hey, like, no, totally. Like I told you before, I feel like we don't have a ton in common. So to be completely honest with you, I have been prioritizing other friendships more. And that's just the truth. And if she's like, but that hurts me, like, I want to be better friends, then maybe you can be like, I appreciate you being honest, but like, I don't know if I feel that way. Based on the last few times we've hung out, it's been awkward. And I don't know if we had what we once did as friends.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think about with personal friendships and that kind of relationship ending is sometimes the truth is more than you need. And so if you just don't want to be friends with her because you just don't like her, and she's not mean, she's not weird, she's not rude, you just don't really like her that much, and you don't want to be friends with her, like, that's okay. You don't have to want to be friends with every single person you've ever met or every single person you've been friends with in the past or in the recent past. And so if you were to just go to her and be like, I don't like you because of X, Y, and Z, that might be more than she needs.
Yeah, it's not doing anyone any good.
Right. Like, if someone came to me and they said, hey, I don't like you because you're loud, annoying, give your opinion too often, and you're obnoxious, I might be like, okay, well, why don't you just not be friends with me? Like, I don't need to hear your life story and like all the opinions you ever had about me. Just don't be friends with me. Like, goodbye.
You're also none of those things.
Oh my God, thank you. That was so nice. But like, I was just trying to use examples like about my actual personality. Because if someone came to me and they were like, I don't want to be friends with you because you're mean, you're rude, and you're a bad person, I would be like, I don't think those things are true. Like, I try to go out of my way to like not be like that. So I'm confused as to why you are saying this. But yeah, if it's just like things you don't like about me, I'd be like, all right, just don't.
Like, I didn't need to hear that today.
Yeah, exactly.
Or ever.
Yeah, exactly. So like in those situations, like the whole truth is more than the person needs. So just let them go without giving them more than they need, you know?
Yeah, there's a way to do this with kindness, leading with kindness, not leading with the full truth. Like, it's not always necessary.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing because I do feel like people are like, honesty is the best policy. Like, if you feel a certain way about somebody, you should tell them. Like, they deserve the truth. And it's like,
no.
Not always.
Not always.
I don't need to tell every person my true thoughts about them because sometimes it's mean and they just don't need to hear it.
And sometimes it's like more about you.
So true.
Too. Like, we're just like not compatible, which is true for friendships as well as romantic relationships, which isn't talked about as much.
That is such a good point.
But it's like, I've definitely interacted with people the past couple of years where I'm like, we are not compatible as friends, but we only really see each other in like group settings. Kind of what we were talking about 2 episodes ago. Like,
okay.
And this person doesn't need to know my opinion about that. Like, because I can tolerate them in the settings that I tolerate them in. And like, this person is not my best friend. So why would I make it obvious that I just don't really like them or vibe with them?
Yeah.
But this is obviously different because like you do have a one-on-one friendship. But regardless, I just think sometimes it's like, keep thoughts to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, save it for the journal.
No, the compatibility thing is so true. And I agree it's not talked about because if you dated someone for a year and then you were like, yeah, I tried it out. Turns out I don't like them that much. Our personalities just don't really vibe. Like in the beginning, I thought they were great, but I've come to learn that I don't think they're funny. I just don't want to spend the rest of my life with them. Everyone would be like, wow, good for you. Like, good for you for knowing what you want and like moving on and spending time in other fulfilling relationships. Like, that's great. But if you said that about a friend, like if you were friends with someone and you were like, yeah, I just don't like them. I don't think they're funny and I no longer want to be friends with them. People would be like, well, don't be mean.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it mean just because I don't want to be friends with someone? The amount of people that do not want to be friends with me, they're not mean. They just don't want to be friends with me.
Mm-hmm.
What would be mean is like coming up to me and telling me all the reasons why when I didn't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would be mean. Maybe it wouldn't though.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's not talked about enough, though. The
friendship aspect of compatibility, yeah.
Yeah, and just, like, moving on from friends and, like, friend breakups and stuff. Like, it's not mean to, like, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've had people move on from me and, like, yeah, it hurts. But, like, in the long run, not every relationship is meant to last forever. And that is also true with friendships.
Very few are, actually.
Wow, that's probably very true. Sad.
Sad,
or
but...
it can be sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes things run its course and you're okay with it.
Yeah.